I'm delighted to have a chance to speak to you today on this issue of business network transformation, because this is probably the most obvious crucible of that kind of transformation going on in the world right now. When you start up thinking about transformation, the first thing you want to do is you want to get a firm grasp on the obvious. And let's start by saying here are 7 things that are not going to change due to this digital transformation. Because there's the 7 things I think that bring us together in this room. The first is human beings need symbols from which to construct their identity. We are symbolic creatures. That is the essence of our intellectual and emotional and cultural life. Media and branded CPG, which are the 2 funding elements here, are the major sources of those images and those symbols. That's not going to change. Brands, in order to make their money, need to capture the attention of individuals to participate in this thing, and media has a proven ability to capture that attention, and advertising has a proven ability to convert attention into brand engagement and sales transactions. That's what makes the consumer economy work. That's not changing. And brands are happy to pay for those services, and consumers are willing to pay a premium for brand promises that engage their identities, that they desire or they admire. Okay? So if you take all that together, the consumer economy, the above the line, the whole participation in the nuances of being human, none of that has changed. That is a permanent part of the human condition. So our reason for being has not changed. What has changed is the mechanisms and the media by which we engage in that exchange with human beings. The first, and I'm just going to do 6 things, and again, firm grasp on the obvious. I think all of us in this room know these 6 things. Media is disaggregating, even as it's expanding its reach. That makes it very inconvenient for many of the historical structures by which we monetized inventory in our industry. Delivery is disaggregating, especially at the end point. The amount of fragmentation at the very end point, the number of different devices, the number of different places that we encounter media has dramatically expanded, and that's creating enormous challenges for the industry as a whole. Content is hyperinflating. The amount of content, the only people that are grinning from ear to ear are the disk storage people, right? But it's hyperinflating, it crowds and it clouds. And that's a problem, not so much for this industry, it's a problem for the consumer. And we're going to have to go through a sorting process as a culture to figure out how do we get the signal to noise ratio back to a level that feels right to people, feels right for creating the kinds of moods and experiences that we want to communicate. Social is reaggregating, so we're watching the likes of Facebook do that, but there's new rules of engagement, and even Facebook doesn't know those rules, as it demonstrates about twice a year. And you know, that's just part of being a startup, right? A little startup, right? $100 billion valued startup, yes, okay. The prior anchors of execution. This is probably the hardest thing for the traditional successful players to deal with. Time and space. Buying a spot at a certain time, a Super Bowl ad is a time and space concept. They're dissolving. Now, they're not disappearing, but they're being marginalized, and they're being marginalized by new anchors of execution in terms of presence and profile. And you just heard Randy talk a lot about the whole issue of how much, you know, do we track or not track or whatever. But as you guys are going to try to educate the world, I want to be profiled in the context of making advertising more successful for me. But the presence and profile, we're just not set up to do that. I mean, we can do it technically. We can't do it at scale, and our industry is not organized around the economics of presence and profile. So this is what's causing business networks to transform.